to X's and O's. I'm one of your co-hosts, Peter Borkowski, and as always, I'm joined by our other co-host, Mr. Bubba Hayes. Bubba, how are we doing this fine Tuesday evening?
Pretty good, Peter. Big week ahead as the Gorloks are getting ready for the conference tournament this weekend, but just got to enjoy a Cardinals win tonight, so
Mm.
not too bad.
Oh, good luck to the Gorloks. The other half, not so much, but yeah, conference tournaments all around. It's crazy. School year's almost over, so. Uh, Went by quick, but we're not here to talk about college athletics. We did plenty of that during March. We're here to talk about Major League Baseball. Pardon me. About a month into the season now. So decent sample size to talk about. Um, Bubba and I, if any of our faithful listeners remember or been around since then, did a little preview episode before spring training started way back when. So couple months later, a month into the season, we're going to talk about the real deal, what we've seen so far, and kind of reflect back on maybe some of the things we said in that preview episode, and see how expectations have met reality so far this season. Obviously, still pretty early in the season, still a lot of baseball to play, but I think we have a decent idea of what these teams are kind of looking like now. So I think it's fair to start talking about it. So, Bubba, I'll give you the option. You want to start National League or American League?
Why don't we start with the very much struggling AL?
All right, we will start with the AL. Do you have a preference on division?
No, you go ahead and choose that.
Um, yeah, a lot of mid. I guess let's start with the West. We'll go west to east.
Okay.
Um,
Yep.
so current AL West division standings as of 9:14 on Tuesday night, April 21st. Yeah, 21st. Athletics 12 and 11 lead the whole thing. Outstanding. Texas 11 and 11. LA Angels 11 and 13, the Mariners 10 and 14, and then the Houston Astros a lowly 9 and 16. Um, my preseason prediction for the AL was Mariners, Rangers, Astros, Athletic, Angels. So kind of all over the place, almost upside down. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, who did you? Well, you had the Mariners pick
Yeah,
to go to the World Series.
yeah, I did. I'm
So,
not too worried about that. I mean, it's just 25 games in, and that division's a bit of a crapshoot.
so of those five, I guess we'll do this for all the divisions to kind of keep it
Hmm.
simple. Biggest surprise or how do I want to phrase this? Best surprise slash worst surprise, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
Pleasant
Um,
surprise versus shitty surprise.
yeah, I'll worst surprise, I think, has to be the Astros getting off to as bad of a start as they had. A
Hmm.
little bit is a little, kind of just bad luck they had with, I think, three of their starting pitchers going down
They
in
have had
like
injury
a
bad
handful of
luck.
days.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know that all of those are like long-term injuries, but like you never want to see three of your starting pitchers go down in 5 days. Like that's really horrible luck. So I think
Right.
for them, I think they still have the offense to be able to figure it out. It's just, a lot of questions now about the health of the pitching staff. Um, as I said, I'm not really that worried about the Mariners. So pleasant surprise. I'm not going to go a team, but I'm going to go the apparent resurgence of Mike Trout. I've been
Mm.
really happy to see him kind of figured it out the first couple weeks. A
Hmm.
really good series, especially against the Yankees.
Yeah, I am glad you brought that up. You know, his average 232, which isn't great, but a 948 OPS, which is a stat I like a lot more than average, as a lot of people I'm sure do. That 948 OPS just about in line with his career number of 977. So, yeah, after, years and years of either playing on a bad team or, just injury, bad luck too. It is nice to see Mike Trout, kind of look like the Mike Trout we all remember growing up, especially like
Hmm.
people our age. I mean,
Yeah,
when we were coming up, Mike Trout was, God. So,
yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, the Astros, because I had him pick third. I am they are probably my worst surprise too.
Hmm.
I didn't expect them to win the division, obviously, but I thought they'd be competitive because they usually are. And I kind of thought last year, which was a down year for them, was going to be just
Hmm.
that, a down year, that they bounced back nicely. Pitching, they still have some good names. Offensively, they got some guys who can play still, even though they've lost a ton over the last couple
Yeah,
seasons between Bregman, Springer, Tucker, those kinds of guys. Um, but yeah, I mean, like you said, the injury bug definitely makes it worse than it is, but their expected win-loss is 11 and 14, which isn't,
yeah,
that improved. So, um, other than that, I'm not terribly surprised the Athletics are, 12 and 11.
competitive.
I thought
Yeah,
they'd be competitive. Good jerseys too. I don't know if you saw
yeah,
the Sacramento reveal, whatever that
yeah.
jersey is. It's a good looking jersey.
I have. I'm having a hard time getting used to their park. I don't know if you saw, but like out in like I guess it would be the bleachers at like some
Hmm.
parks. It's just like a field where like people are like laying out in blankets.
Yeah,
It
I
looks
think
kind of
because
weird.
it's the same park as last year, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
just for
I
whatever reason
remember
it's yeah. I'm
The
just
Cubs second series. I think last year was in Oakland or
mhm.
shit, Sacramento. And I remember seeing it, and yeah, it is
Yeah,
obviously very unique for a major league park.
yeah.
Um, all right, and then last thing we'll do for each division. So you had Seattle winning it. I also had
Hmm.
Seattle winning it. Currently 10 and 14, fourth place. Do you want to change your prediction?
No, I still feel comfortable with that. I think, seeing how they played last year, they got a decent amount better in the offseason. Obviously just lost Donovan to the 15-day IL, but
Hmm.
nothing too major going on with them. Cal Raleigh got off to a pretty bad start to the year offensively. So I'm not too worried about them. They have the pitching staff to figure it out, and I think they're going to figure it out. So, and I don't think that division is going to be one of the hardest to win either.
No, well, like I said, the Athletics lead it being one game over 500 right now.
Yeah.
If the Mariners, they don't even have to be as good as they were last year, even if they're just competitive. They should take care of business. So, all right, moving over AL Central. Current standings as of right this second. Cleveland 14 and 11 lead the whole thing. Minnesota a game behind at 12 and 11. Detroit a game and a half behind at 12 and 12. And then a little bit of a jump. White Sox 4.5 at 8 and 14. And then the Kansas City Royals 6 games back,
Yeah.
7 and 16. I think that's got to be the worst surprise
Yeah.
is the
I agree.
Royals. Because they are, as of right this second, tied with the Mets, who I'm sure we'll talk about,
Yeah.
um, for the worst record in baseball. Lost 8 in a row and negative 34 run differential, which is second worst in baseball right now.
Yeah.
Um, Preseason, I had Tigers, Guardians, Royals, Twins, White Sox. So yeah, the Royals not too happy with that pick because I didn't think they'd be a playoff lock. I thought they'd be, you know,
Yeah. Remember you were somewhat high on them as
I was a
maybe being
little
like
I
a
was a
dark
little
horse.
high
Yeah.
on them to, make one of the last two wild card spots.
Hmm.
But I mean, their pitching hasn't been great either, but their offense, I don't know if you've seen that stat that circulated. That was like there's a stretch Bobby Witt Jr. was on base 35 times. Um,
Wow.
and he got stranded 31 of those 35 times.
Yeah, I saw Vinny was like he has zero homers and one RBI so far. So that's or at least as of a couple days ago he did. So that's not
And
great for them.
Perez has been awful too. And there's some drama because their manager gave him a mental breather day. And
Yeah.
Perez came out and was like, I don't need a
Hmm.
breather. It's like, oh, that's not great.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's
Yeah, that
a
was
that.
a little bit kind of a little bit similar to Mike Matheny and Yachty kind of back in the day with the
Mhm.
Cardinals as he was aging. Yachty did not ever want to have an off day, and Matheny, a former catcher himself, was like, "Well, you're kind of slowing down, buddy. Like you need to have an off day." And
Right.
it kind of became more of a public dispute, and that's kind of exactly what's happened here. I saw Salvi took to Twitter a couple days ago to kind of talk about it too.
which I will say you don't see that in baseball a lot.
No, you
And
don't. Yeah.
NBA you see it a lot, especially with guys like
Yeah.
KD floating around the league.
Yeah.
You don't really see that from baseball play. I didn't even know
No, you
Salvador
don't.
Perez had a Twitter. So,
Yeah, that's that's probably the only tweet of his I've ever
that might be the
found
most
on my timeline.
surprising thing of the story for me. So,
Yeah.
I'll go KC is my worst surprise. Biggest, I think you got to go Minnesota. Um, I mean, coming into the year, people were
Yeah.
saying this was going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They brought in Derek Shelton, former Pirates manager
Hmm.
slash former Saluki, to be their manager. I had them picked second to last in the division, only ahead of the White Sox, but 12 and
Yeah, I think
11. Um, Byron Buxton's having a really good game, really good season, I should say. Um, Hopefully he stays on the field. That's always his biggest issue. But yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
remember us talking. We thought they were going to be sellers pretty early
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
him and then Joe Ryan, the
Hmm.
pitcher. But and again, it's early. They're only a game above 500, but kind of like the West. I mean, the AL Central is not exactly a powerhouse,
Yeah. Yeah, for
powerhouse
sure.
division. If they can keep something like this up, they'll have a chance to sneak in, at least
Yeah.
by winning the division.
Yeah. I think I can't remember if I had them third or fourth. Might have had them over Royals, but I don't want to say that for sure. We can go back and check the tape because that's out there obviously on the YouTube page for anyone that hasn't watched it yet. Go out and check that out. But yeah, I think my biggest surprise. Um, yeah, it could be the Twins. I think one of the only series of theirs I've gotten to see a lot of was that I think 4 game sweep of the Tigers. That was pretty surprising.
Hmm.
Scooble had a really bad game
Hmm.
in that one. I've actually seen a little bit of the Central because the Cardinals have already played. They played the Tigers in Detroit. They lost 2 out of 3, and they played the Guardians here last week. And even though the Cardinals took 2 or 3 from the Guardians, I was a little bit surprised by them because they're, other than Jose Ramirez, I wouldn't say they're a very like flashy team. Not a lot of like really, star players, but they're just a very pesky team that finds a
Yeah.
way to score runs. So I wouldn't be surprised, kind of getting a chance to see them there a couple times if they sort of stay around, a while. I know that's not a total surprise that they're competitive, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of stick around for a while. I would imagine the Tigers are still the heavy favorites to figure things out in that division, but based on what I saw in that series, I think the Guardians, could be a team that's at least competitive for a decent part of the year in that division.
Yeah, I had the Tigers winning it. I thought the talent was just too much, especially because we recorded that pretty soon after they signed Valdez.
Yeah.
So between him and Scooball, and then they got some good bats all around the lineup. I thought they would win it, and I still think they will.
Yeah.
I still have faith that they'll win it. But yeah, I mean, I think we said this about the Guardians in that preview episode, like, you can never count them out. I mean, and yeah, the
Yeah.
Cubs lost 2 of 3 to them back around
Okay.
Easter weekend. And yeah, I had the exact same thought of, you could probably only name two guys in the lineup. It's Ramirez and then Kwan.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they put good they stick around. They always have solid pitching. They get runs
Yeah.
somehow. Stephen Vogt's a good manager. Um,
Hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they pull it off, but I still think Detroit is solid enough.
Yeah, I'd
Is
agree.
a solid enough to pick to win. I'm just interested to see what the hell KC does. If this is just, you know, a bad start, or are they just going to underperform because, they're in the point of that re of a rebuild where it's like it's go time.
Yeah, it's time.
Um,
Yeah, on a somewhat different note to their play on the field, I don't know if you saw, but they are having a press conference tomorrow with the KC mayor and Governor Kehoe. I presume they're going to be announcing that they're going to be staying in Kansas City. I would
uh,
imagine that's why you have those very conflicting politicians getting together in the same place with some of
yeah,
the Royals people to kind of make that announcement.
because with the
So I
Chief.
presume that's what we're going to be hearing tomorrow.
With the Chiefs leaving. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. See if like you said, if they stay or maybe they join the Kansas side, like their football brethren. So, though they're gonna, because the stadiums are right next to each other. So,
Hmm.
I am interested to see what they make of Arrowhead once the Chiefs move
Yeah.
out. So, all right. Moving over to the final division of the American League, the American League East. Uh, Yankees, who are the only team in the AL above 600 right now. Um, the only team even really close to 600.
Yeah.
14 and 9, they lead the thing. 2 games behind them, Tampa Bay Rays, 12 and 11. 3 games behind are the Orioles, 11 and 12. And then 4.5 back, we got Toronto, 9 and 13. 5 back,
Yeah.
Boston, 9 and 14. I don't know. I'll let you lead. Who's your worst surprise? Who's worse than you expected so far?
Um, well, I'm going to say Toronto, but I'm not all that concerned about him. Kind of similar to the Mariners.
Hmm.
Just getting off to that kind of a start. Not really what they would have hoped for. Um, Boston obviously got off to a slow start,
Right.
but they seem to be figuring things out. I do think that Contreras trade is a good move for them, and he's had a pretty solid start to the year. Baltimore, I think there's some open questions about how they're going to be this year. Like obviously last year was a pretty big letdown considering what they'd kind of been coming off of.
Right.
Um, this year so far, I don't think Alonso's gotten off to a very great start. Like
To
not
batting
not
two
hor
batting
not horrible, but
211 with two home
yeah.
runs and a 668 OPS.
Yeah,
So
that's not exactly what he's getting paid to do there.
right.
So I do think he'll figure it out too. But so maybe just a kind of a division of slow starts. The Rays are kind of intriguing to me. Seeing them the opening series here at Busch.
Hmm.
I think they're just one of those teams that you and I would both freely admit are just always interesting with how scrappy they are, and they just find a way to be, in the race every single year. And credit to them for doing so. I the one thing they do have a couple players in their lineup this year that I'm like, there's no way this is going to work out. Specifically, one player that appears to be starting for them, Ryan Vilade, was on the Cardinals last year and was hands down the worst player I've ever seen, like in my life. And I mean, he probably got like 30, 40 at bats, and I don't think he got a hit. But it was just like but he's starting for the Rays now, and I don't think he's
Hmm.
doing that horrible. So who knows? But the Rays, that's just kind of one of their things. And then the Yankees, like I think we expected this from them. They have some good pitching. I've been pretty impressed with Cam Schlittler so far. They obviously still have some pitching to come back when Garrett Cole returns. So I think the East is, got everyone except for the Yankees has gotten off to a little slower start than you'd probably expect, but I think it's going to be at the end, at the end of the year, a very competitive division, at least in terms of number of teams they have in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, I'm also pleasantly surprised by Tampa. I mean, like you said, they're always, smart enough to find a way to be
Hmm.
competitive. It's just a very well-run organization. Their offense is surprisingly good this year, which I didn't really expect from them. But the Cubs, I say I follow. So the Cubs played them a few series, 3 or 4 series ago. Took 2 or 3, but like the Rays were putting up some runs too.
Hmm.
Between Chandler Simpson, who's just a
Yeah.
lightning bolt. And then Junior Caminero, who's coming off an insane season last year and now he's only 22.
Yeah.
Um, I think, but of those 3 teams below 500, so Baltimore, Toronto, Boston, honestly, I feel worse probably about Baltimore, honestly. I mean, I
Okay.
maybe not
Yeah.
worse, but I have more faith in Toronto and
Yeah,
Boston.
I agree. Yeah.
Um, I think Toronto will be fine. I don't know if they'll go back to the World Series, but I think they'll find a way to get back towards the top of this division at least. And Boston, um, I had Boston finishing third preseason, and I still think they will.
Yeah.
Um, but Baltimore, man, it's, like you said, they had a down year last year after that felt like they broke out the season before.
Hmm.
And they make the big signing for Alonso and things don't look particularly better yet.
Yeah.
Through they've played 23 games, finished 23 games. They're currently tied with the Royals, bottom of the ninth right now. So, and then I mean New York, I had them picked to win the division. I still feel good about that. They're one of the few AL teams who actually looks really, really good. So, because
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I knew it, but not until right now when I've been looking at the standings. Like the AL is just down this year so far. Um,
Yeah. The only thing I will say about like obviously the NL is a little bit better, but the one thing I've noticed around baseball is like other than the Dodgers, who have now since, taken a little bit of a step back with their loss or two to the, cheating Rockies.
yeah, right.
Um, the one thing I've noticed is like there's a lot of parity this year, at least so far.
Hmm.
And maybe that doesn't mean like actual parity, but like there's a lot of teams like really close to 500. And
Yeah,
as of now, a lot of teams that you can't point to a lot of teams that and say, oh, they're very bad. And the teams you can, I don't think are the ones we expected to be really bad.
right,
I think if you would have expected the bad teams to be like the Nationals or the Cardinals or some of
right.
those other teams, that's now you're looking there and you're seeing like the Royals or
Hmm.
the Mets.
Mets,
Like
yeah,
I think that's kind of hard to explain, or like the Giants or the Red Sox even.
right.
So I think obviously we need to give it a little bit more time before we can really formulate some year long opinions. But that's one thing that's kind of stood out to me is just the parity in the game this year. So maybe, we do have a team like the Dodgers continue to beat up on everybody, but
Hmm.
maybe there's not as many basement dwellers. Like, I don't think we're going to have any teams like the Rockies or the White Sox that are historically bad. Like, it seems like we're going to have some, somewhat competitive floor, I guess you could say, which I think is good for the sport.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the winning percentages, right now we got, geez, six teams who are below 400 winning
Hmm.
percentage. And, that's when I would consider you bad, bad
Yeah. Yeah.
territory. Four of them are in the AL, by the way, two of which are in the Central itself. Um, and then, you look at teams, like you said, that are close to 500. So I'd say that 450 to 550 range, 50
Hmm.
clicks north and south of 500. You've got, let's see, one, two. Yeah, two in the NL, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine. So you got a lot more teams who, like you said, are very close to that 500 range.
Hmm.
Um, and if you broaden it to better than 400, worse than 600, especially early in the season when win totals are really swayed, that's almost the entire league. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see if anyone kind of sifts out because, like you said, the teams who are really bad right now, um,
Hmm.
they're not supposed to be really bad.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
Houston, we thought would be better. KC, we thought would be better. White Sox, eh.
Yeah.
Boston, Toronto, we thought would be better. Colorado, eh. San Fran, I don't know what we really expect. You never really know what to expect, but you thought they'd be more competitive.
Yeah.
Mets, Phillies, we thought would be better. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's going to be interesting if, when do we hit that point, which I don't know what point in the season you would say where we can say like, all right, this is officially really surprising. Um,
Yeah. I
you know,
think you have to wait till Flag Day. That's usually the day that
hmm,
which isn't an anything important holiday, but it's just like a point in June that it's like, okay, now we're a ways into the season. Like
right,
things are starting to, get a little bit more real. So I think there's still plenty of time to get to that point. But if you get off to a really concerning start like we've seen so far, that just puts the pressure even more to have a good,
right,
rest of April and May. Because if you don't, if you find yourself 10 games below 500, through May or, somewhere around there, like, yes, you can come back from that, but, for a lot of those teams that maybe weren't already planning on it being a great year, like they kind of have to start looking pretty quickly at being sellers. And so,
Yeah.
that pressure starts to kind of ramp up quicker than it would be if you were, say, 500, like giving it more time to play out.
Right. I mean, I heard it today where, you can't win the division in April. Um,
Hmm.
but you probably can lose it. Um, and even then though, like, if you told me, I mean, Seattle, they're fourth in the division. If you told me they win the division at the end of the year, I agree with you. So I don't know. It's like you said, a lot of parity. Really interesting to see how everything's just kind of a mess right now. Um, but we got a whole other half of standings to talk about. So we're going to take a quick
Yep.
break. And then when we come back, we'll hit the National League, starting with the NL West. All right, welcome back. Bubba and I have returned from our break. I have brought a snack with me, so if I go mute for a minute, I am eating. Been a long day. So, anyways, let's hit the National League, continuing our appraisal of the MLB season a month in, and like the American League, we'll go west to east, which means we are going to start with the National League West. Already effed it. So, as of right now, so far, and I don't know if these have updated from tonight's results or not. Let's see. Oh, they're starting to. So, anyways,
Yeah.
um, starting off National League West, LA Dodgers lead it at 16 and 6. San Diego 15 and 7, a game behind, 3 games behind Arizona 13 and 9. San Francisco a 7 game deficit, 9 and 13, and they are only half a game ahead of as you said, the cheaters, the biggest cheaters in MLB history, the Colorado Rockies sitting at 9 and 14. Um I don't know. I'll let you start because I'm still kind of
Yep.
trying to think. Surprises. What do we got so far?
Um, I if my memory is correct, I think I actually have this division correct so far in the right order. I I I don't know if there's anything that's like actually surprising. Let's see. I mean, I don't expect the Giants to be this bad all year, but I guess I wouldn't be shocked if they never end up, totally figuring it out. It is kind of the first year with their new manager, and I think there are still some weak spots in their lineup. So, we'll see. Not totally surprising. The Diamondbacks, I think you were a little bit surprised that I had them ahead of the Giants, and I said they would be somewhat competitive. I can't remember I don't think I said they were going to make the playoffs, but I had them in third place. I'm not, super shocked to me like that. I don't know that I just really like their team. I think they have some really solid players. I think they have some really decent pitching depth. So thus far. I think they would be like, I guess, the pleasant surprise. Like, and I'm not even totally shocked, but just to see it come to fruition, um, yeah, it's kind of interesting. Arenado's had a couple really good games for them, and then for the rest of the year hasn't been that good. So I guess we'll see, you know, as that continues if that experiment works. But we're basically paying him to play there, so who knows? It's they're not losing much by that. They had that one guy come up, Fernandez, who's been really, really solid. I don't know if you've gotten to see anything on him yet, but I've been pretty impressed with him. I think he's playing like third and first base, so that could be an interesting player for them. The Padres, really solid as I think we would expect. Like, even though they may be, there's always some pieces in flux. Like, still a really solid team. I would be them a little bit nervous about the Pavetta injury, but I think he's just on the 15-day IL, so I don't think it's anything serious. And, we're in April, and their closer Mason Miller's getting Cy Young debate already started. So that's, interesting. And then, you have the Dodgers, who are, of course, the Dodgers. They're doing what they always do. I don't think they've been overwhelmingly like surprising with how good they've been. I think we just come to expect it.
Right.
Shohei. has continued to get on base at a pretty historic pace. I don't know. I think the streak's still intact at like 52 or 53 games on base streak.
Hmm.
So I think that the West so far, at least from my perspective, is about what I expected. We'll see if it kind of continues to go this way. How about you?
Yeah, I think Colorado is what we expected, maybe a little better actually.
Hmm.
San Fran, I would not have been surprised wherever they ended up. I mean, I didn't think they'd
Yeah.
be first. I didn't think they'd be last. So I'm not surprised they're in fourth. I think the Vitello signing was either going to be a home run or is going to be what it's been so far,
Yeah.
which is a guy who's never managed at the professional level, trying to make the jump for the first
Hmm.
time in history. And even if he was successful, and I don't watch Giants games, so maybe it's not him. I don't know. But like you said, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think their team is all there yet either. They're always such a weird, they've always been, the last couple of years, they've just been this weird, I don't want to say directionless because they've been competitive, but like kind of
Yeah.
like what's the vision here sometimes. Um,
I do
Arizona,
think
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say on San Francisco, they have to be disappointed so far with how that Devers trade has gone down. Like he's the guy that has to be their best player, and he just hasn't. He's still been fine and solid, but I mean, he needs to be a home run hitter and hitting lots of doubles, high OPS, and that's just not what he's done so far.
Yeah. Arizona, I had them fourth. And I mean, 4 games around 500, which again, 4 games in April is a lot different than 4 games in September. Um, I'm not terribly surprised or good. I mean, I still think they'll finish third or fourth. I had them in fourth in the preseason behind the Giants, and I think they'll still finish around there. San Diego, I'm a little. So I mean, they're on a 9-1 run right now in their last 10. They've won two. Well, they've only won two straight. But I thought they would. I really thought them, San Fran, and Arizona were going to be kind of jumbled together, as these good competitive teams, but not amazing. So the fact that I mean, only by 2 games. But the fact that San Diego is closer to the Dodgers than they are to the Diamondbacks and the Giants is a little surprising to me. And then yeah, Dodgers are gonna Dodger, 10 games above 500. They are the best team in baseball right now, statistically and probably on paper too. Even though, and this is the thing with the Dodgers is they lost Diaz for I think they're saying at least the All-Star break. Edwin Diaz will be out even without that, you're like they'll be fine. It's, you lose one of, if not the best closer in baseball, and you're not really that affected by it. It's just insane the talent they have. So, um, I picked the Dodgers to win. I still think they'll win. I mean, as surprising as San Diego's been overperforming a little bit, maybe I'd still put my money on the Dodgers. So,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
all right. Let's go on to our division, which has been by far the best division in all of baseball, which
Yeah.
is pretty freaking insane. The National League Central.
And I think because of that, we should be allowed to talk about it for a little bit longer than the other ones.
Yeah, well, let me think. Let's knock out the East, actually. Let's knock out the
Okay.
East so we kind of
Fair enough.
know
Yeah.
we know with the Central how much time we're playing with.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll skip the Central for
Hmm.
now. Let's talk about the NL East. Um, Maybe the most disappointing division in baseball so far for two obvious
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
Right now, the Braves, 16-8, they are 5 games ahead of Miami, who's 11 and 13. Washington's tied with them at 11 and 13. And then we have everybody's, favorite teams in the world. Philadelphia Phillies, who just lost again tonight, their seventh straight loss, 7.5 games back, 8 and 15, and somehow doing worse is the 7 and
I,
16 Mets, who have
yeah.
now dropped 12 games straight, including tonight's loss to Minnesota. Cubs just pulled off the sweep. Minnesota beat them tonight. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I guess
Thanks,
let's
Zoran.
yeah, right. It's Mom Donnie's fault. Um, I guess let's talk about the good, which is
Yeah.
the only good, which is Atlanta. Um, I had them pick second, and I think I was higher than them. You were, or where'd you have
Yeah,
them?
you were.
Um,
I don't. I'm trying to remember. I want to say I had him third,
right. I
but
was I was
it was
pretty
either second or
high.
third.
I was pretty high on
Yeah, I
Atlanta
remember that.
if they had stayed healthy. And now, of course, as I say that, I just saw something about I think his last night Acuna got banged up.
Mhm.
I don't know the
Yeah.
severity of it. Might be nothing, but I saw that. But, I said preseason, like, if this team's healthy, watch out. They're healthy
Hmm.
and they have been, you know, probably the second best team in baseball. You can make the argument. So, I mean, Chris Sale's pitching lights out again. They have talent
Hmm.
all up and down that lineup. It was just a matter of could they
Yeah.
stay on the field. So far, it's actually come to fruition. Um, so I'm not, pleasant surprise slash not totally surprised by Atlanta. Miami and Washington, 11 and 13. That's kind of where I expected Miami. Washington, probably a
Yeah.
little bit better than what I thought.
Yeah.
And then we have the trouble childs,
Hmm.
Philly and the Mets. Well, I mean, we've all, with the Cubs, so I've watched over the last, I don't know, over the last week, I've now watched or listened to five Phillies games. And I've watched or listened to three Mets games just because of the way the
Yeah.
Cubs schedule is right now. Um,
They played the Phillies 5 times.
they played the Phillies three times in Philly. They had a three-game series against the Mets, and now they're playing the Phillies in a four-game series.
Hell,
So at least it is four games, right?
no. But I'm just saying they're getting
I know.
they're
Yeah.
playing them twice, and so
So,
they
but
won't play them the rest of the year then.
So between Tuesday the 13th and then or Monday the 13th and then this upcoming Thursday the 23rd, they'll have played the
Wow.
Phillies seven times. Um,
So you're pretty familiar with them.
I've seen a lot of Phillies. I've seen a lot of the Mets. Um, yeah, the Phillies offense. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Well, the Mets offense is bad too. I mean, they're just
Yeah.
both so bad. Um, yeah, the Phillies just look. I don't know what to say about the Phillies. I mean, none of their guys. I mean, it's getting to a point of even though I'm watching or listening or at least following these games on my phone, I keep forgetting Bryce Harper's on this team.
Yeah.
Like I do want to pull up his stats because I don't think he's done anything against the Cubs. Though
Yeah.
I think he did hit a home run tonight. Now that I
He was
say it.
actually doing okay, I think, before the last week or so. I haven't seen much about him the last week, but
So on the season, 274 hitting, last 15 games, 7 for 18, last seven games, or sorry, 18 hits and 52 at bats, last seven games, seven hits and 26 at bats. So,
okay.
um, Adolis
Not that
Garcia,
bad.
Adolis
Yeah.
Garcia was a big offseason
Yeah.
add. He's got an OPS of 360,
Yeah.
634. And then
Okay.
Schwarber's batting 217. Now he's got eight home runs. I mean, Kyle
Yeah.
Schwarber's, gonna Kyle Schwarber. So, and even I think the more notable thing with me has just been the pitching. I mean, because the Cubs
Yeah.
they've seen Nola twice. He looked bad both
Yeah. He
times.
has not looked good this
And
year.
then they've seen Luzardo twice after tonight. He looked bad in the first game they played last week, and he was actually okay this week. It was more their bullpen that blew tonight's game for him, or didn't blow it, but gave it up. So, and then the Mets. I don't even know what to say about the Mets. They look bad. I mean, they've
Yeah.
scored, I think it's 22 runs over their last 12 games. None of those big bats are really doing much. And then, the last game against the Cubs, they had that 1-0 lead in the ninth. Cubs came back, walked it off.
Yeah.
And then they had a 3-1 lead against the Twins tonight. They blew that. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about either of
Yeah.
these teams.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'll go ahead and start with those two. Yeah, Phillies, I completely agree with everything you said. Like, even though it seems like they've gotten off to slower starts in previous years and found a way, like this year feels to me a little bit different. Like something is a little bit off, and I think you're right. It's definitely more on the pitching side, but they're gonna have to get more out of Harper and specifically Garcia, who I think was kind of, you know, imagined to be kind of that, another big kind of piece to build around there. But they're going to have to get more out of their pitching. And in my mind, yeah, the bullpen's been a problem for, a couple years. I know they have Johan Duran, I think. Or I think that's him. They have a decent closer, but the rest of their bullpen seems to always be a bit of a question mark. So I think that continues to be the case. The Mets. Part of it to me feels like just a team that has gotten a little bit unlucky with hitting with runners in scoring position, as in they have been inept at doing so. So you would expect as the year kind of goes on further, some of those, batting average of balls in play, those stats would kind of even out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the complete, absence of their big stars. I mean, I don't know the exact numbers, but Soto does not seem to be playing great. Lindor, I mean, to me,
Well,
he just
Soto was hurt too.
yeah.
Soto spent
Um
time hurt.
yeah, oh you're right about that. Lindor, I saw someone saying a little while ago that maybe he just needs like a day or two to rest because he's was really struggling at the plate and has made a couple kind of defensive whoopsies that you're not used to seeing with him. And Bo Bichette, he's going to be getting kind of feeling the wrath of that, media apparatus there pretty soon if he doesn't figure it out because he started really slow and it's gotten a little better, but it's still taken a while. Yeah, it's tough to say. I think, in the offseason, I was really high on the Mets just with all the moves they made. And I still tend to think they're going to figure it out. But man, they've dug themselves a hole, and that is not the place to be playing with a hole because, the noise is just going to get louder and louder there. So that's something to watch out on. And also, their trade for uh Luis, I don't know if it's Robert or
Robert,
Robert.
yeah, Robert, yeah.
I think he goes by Robert, but I'm just going to call him Robert because
I've heard both. Yeah.
that's how it should be pronounced at least. So we'll just go with that. He hasn't done a lot, and I've seen some horrible defensive plays of his out in center field, so that's not great. The Marlins, I think you're right. That's pretty much what you'd expect. The Nationals, the record doesn't show it, but I'll tell you what, I think they have to be happy with what they've seen so far, especially out of their, their two big players, C.J. Abrams and James Wood,
Hmm.
putting up some big power numbers. Like if that could continue, that is two guys they can build around. Of course, it's the Nationals, so they could also ship them off here this year or next year
Yeah.
at the trade deadline. So you never know with them, but I think they have to be encouraged. And then the Braves. You were definitely right. You were higher on them. We'll see if it kind of continues that way. I think the good news for them is they've done this, and I don't even think Acuna has been at like his best for most of the year. So that's
Right.
something. Two players I would highlight on the Braves. Matt Olson to me is kind of like replaced Freeman and is kind of his mold there on that team. Just a really
Hmm.
solid player who
Hmm.
always seems to get big hits. And I think Drake Baldwin has to be one of the most underrated players in baseball. I mean, a great rookie season last year, and he's
Right.
just an RBI machine. Like that dude can just hit. He's not a very
Yeah.
big guy, but he hits for power, and he just, always up for a clutch hit. So I've also been pretty impressed with the Braves thus far.
Yeah. So I picked the Phillies to win. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll turn it around. I have more faith in Philly to turn it around than the Mets. Um,
Okay.
I think the Philly core is still strong. Like they just need guys to start
Yeah.
performing, which I guess you could say about the Mets. But the Mets have also done just some stupid shit. I mean, the way they handled that
Yeah.
walk-off loss to the Cubs was awful. I mean, you had a guy on third, Nico Horner at the plate, which we'll talk, which I'll mention him in a bit. But and then you have Michael Bush, who's been god awful to start this season behind Horner.
Hmm.
How do you not walk Nico Horner? That's just a terrible decision. Horner takes the first pitch deep enough to get a walk-off sac fly. So
Yeah.
I just have a little more faith in Philly. I don't think they'll win the division. I think Atlanta should do that. So yeah, God, what a shit show for those two
Yeah.
East Coast quote unquote powerhouses, playoff teams. So all right. Let's jump back to the middle of the country, the NL Central. Um, Pretend we didn't even start talking about it. So, NL Central probably been it has been the best division in baseball. Every team is 3 games above 500 or better. The Reds leading the whole thing at 16 and 8, game and a half back are the Cubs and the Cardinals at 14 and 9 each. And then a half a game behind that, the Milwaukee Brewers at 13 and 9. And then a half a game behind that, you got the Pittsburgh Pirates who are 13 and 10, which makes me believe, and just kind of looking through the scoreboard, see if anyone, are they all done? Reds won today, Cardinals won today, Brewers won today. Cubs won today, and the Pirates lost or are losing. They're down five to
Yeah.
one at the
Okay.
moment. So, um, Reds have won five straight. They're 8 and 2 in their last 10. Cubs have won seven straight. They're 8 and 2 in their last 10. Cardinals are 6 and 4 in their last 10. So it's been a fucking bloodbath. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone just keeps winning. I mean,
Hmm.
the Cubs are on a 7 game win streak and they're still a game and a half back in the division. Like that just
Yep.
shows how good, and they're only a game ahead of the last place team.
Hmm.
So, dear God. I'll start with this. I'll start with this for you. So Cincy and Pittsburgh, both of
Yeah.
them always seem to do this shit at the start of the
Yeah.
season where they
Yeah.
come out firing and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this is the year." And then they eventually falter away. Do you have uh do you have more faith in either of them this year to not do that and to actually hold on to these good
Hmm.
starts?
I think I do. I'm not sure that I of those two. I don't think Cincy is the one that I have more faith in. I do. I like their kind of younger players. I'm not completely sold on their pitching yet, especially in
Hmm.
that ballpark. I mean, obviously it's going to be tough in that ballpark as is, but I'm not totally sold on their pitching. The Pirates, I could see them. I think I picked them as a wild card team, so I'm going to stick
Yeah,
with
you
my
were high
gut
on
there.
them.
I mean, I like what I've seen so far. Like, I'm sure their fan base is kind of a little bit shell-shocked here watching winning baseball. Imagine that. Um, the one thing I'll say is that trade they made with the Rays, the three-way trade, getting Brandon Lau, he's looked really good for
He's
them
been
so far
good.
this year.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of home runs. I've been pretty impressed with the Pirates so far. Like, I think and honestly, from what I've seen so far with the Reds, like I don't think they're gonna go quietly. Like I think if this division ends up being like as competitive as it is, like I don't think you're gonna see anybody like walk away with it with like 95, 100 wins. I just think you could see a lot of like very competitive above 500 teams, and so that's kind of where we could be heading towards. So that's kind of where I'm at so far. The Cubbies got off to a rough start, but they've obviously figured things out and are playing
Hmm.
solid now. The Brewers got off to a really good start, have cooled off a little bit, but I think no one questions that they're going to be solid.
Right.
And I mean, man, the Cardinals have been even surprising me,
Hmm.
with kind of how they've played so far. They haven't gotten very good pitching. They've gotten, you know, okay starting pitching, but not great, very
Hmm.
mediocre. And their bullpen, they've had two guys pitch really well. Everyone's talked about Mason Miller, but the Cardinals closer O'Brien has been just as good, arguably this year. Has not given up a run yet. So. I do think, there's just a lot of interesting things going on in the Central that you're right. Who would have thought, certainly not us like a month ago that we weren't talking about how good
Yeah.
this division was going to be. But
No.
yeah, I mean, to me, it's been very enjoyable. And I don't know about you, but we haven't played anybody in the Central Division yet. I think the first matchup we have is against the Pirates, I think, in the next week or so. So that'll be interesting,
Right.
but that'll be the first time we've actually played anybody in the division. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how we stack up against some of those teams. Because at least for me, obviously, you're going to be a little bit different. The Cubs' expectations for the year are a lot higher than the Cardinals. But like from what I've seen so far, like I'm actually a little bit optimistic about the Cardinals. Like I don't remember. I think I picked him to finish last just because I didn't want to be stupid and not do that.
Right.
But I do think, the expectations of them being really bad were way overblown just because a lot of the players they got rid of were not going to be, that great anyway, other than maybe Contreras. Like you traded Sonny Gray, who was your quote unquote ace, but his ERA was
Oh,
4.75 last
he's
year.
not,
Like,
and he's not an ace.
yeah, exactly. So it's like I'm actually kind of optimistic with what I've seen so far. JJ Weatherholt's been really good, or at least I shouldn't even say really good, but just really solid. He doesn't look like a rookie. He looks like he's been
Yeah.
doing this a while. Jordan Walker, I have no idea if this
Where
is
the
going to
hell did
continue.
he come from?
Yeah, like I
I
don't know if
I
this is going to
thought he
continue,
had classic
but
Cardinals prospect, comes
yeah,
up, looks great and then shits the bed. And, he'll come back down to earth, but it's still like, even if he's playing
yeah,
at 75% of what he's been doing, that's still
yeah.
good.
No,
So,
exactly. Because, I mean, just to give you the stats on this, having had watched this statistically, with WAR and all these other, he has been the worst outfielder in baseball over the last 2 years.
yeah, it's
Like the
awful.
least productive, the least valuable out. He has been a drain on the team because his play in right field has not. He has a really good arm, but he's been horrible defensively. He
Hmm.
swings at everything.
Hmm.
And even though he hits the ball really hard, he doesn't hit for
He
power.
doesn't hit the
You
ball.
know, so we're gonna see this year if this continues. I'm a little bit skeptical just because of what I've seen it from him over the course of 3.5 years. But now at least he's shown us what he's capable of in
Right.
one of these stretches. So it's given Cardinals fans, a lot of hope that they had kind of given up on him before,
Hmm.
myself included, and now we're like, okay, like now we see finally the promise. So that's kind of the temperature here at Cardinals Nation. I don't know if everyone else is expecting it to last, but that's kind of how we're feeling here.
Yeah. Um, oh my God, I almost just fell over. Yeah, so I mean to go back to the original question, I have more faith in Cincy. I thought they'd be solid. Um, oh, hush up you. I think the Pirates are hang on, let me feed this little bastard. Um, I thought the Pirates would be better than they have been in the past, and so far they have been. I still, they are still playing better than I expected. Brewers, I don't have much to say about, honestly. They're kind of what I thought they'd be, which is good, good
Yeah.
ball club, just kind of what they always are. Um, Cardinals, you know, I guess I'll ask you because I haven't like watched a ton of Cardinals baseball yet. Um, do you think they come back down, or do you think this is somewhat realistic out of them?
I mean, let me put it this way. I don't think they're going to win more than like 85 games or so.
Hmm.
But I do think it's realistic to say, yes, they could finish above 500 and be competitive. Listen, they're a young team. They're going to have some clunkers in there, but
Right.
so far, like a lot of the numbers don't suggest that we're due for a big, step backwards. Like, some of those I know the expected win-loss record that's a little different, but like offensively, the numbers have been just above average, but like
Hmm.
we haven't even gotten some contributions from like honestly, in my opinion, heading into this year, our probably best all-around hitter, Ivan Herrera, got off to a really slow start.
Hmm.
So I do think there's some room for improvement. Newt Barr is still on the IL. So we're going to see. I do think that the pitching is just the main question mark because the rotation, even though it's better than last year because I don't have to watch Michaelis and Eric Fetty throw 40% of our games, I still have to watch Andre Palante pitch 20% of our games, and that's not very fun. So, like, I don't honestly, the way my attitude right now is I'm just enjoying it, and we're gonna see what happens. It's fun, watching this team. I've had a good, enjoyable time watching them. I don't really know to answer your question if they're gonna be able to keep it up,
Right.
but this is better than I was expecting so
I,
far. So
yeah, I mean, my
no complaints
answer,
for me.
and I'm not as in tune with them as you are. I do think they'll be better than I expect. I mean, I had them picked last, but I still didn't expect them to be you know,
Yeah,
like a 60 win ball club.
yeah,
Um, now if you told me, hey, they'll finish like 500, a couple games over, I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Hmm.
So and then, I picked the Cubbies to win the division, and I'm gonna stand by that. Now,
Fair
if you
enough.
would if you would talk to me and I didn't answer it. The Cubs have played a division team. They played Pittsburgh, the
Okay.
10th, 11th, and 12th. Lost the first two games of that series, combined 6-3.
Okay.
Thankfully won game three. I think there's a walk. I think there's a Carson Kelly walk off. Maybe there's another game though. Anyway, no, I think that was the Carson Kelly walk off.
Oh yeah, because the Pirates were winning, right? And then they
Yeah,
like
yeah, they
didn't
were
even
up
go
by
after that
quite a
fly
bit.
ball.
They were up by
Yeah.
quite a bit. Yeah. So anyways,
Yeah.
if you had asked me after April 11th when they just lost two straight to the Pirates, I would have thought, um, you know, I would have thought no. Like I think they're going to underperform.
Hmm.
Thankfully, since then, now luckily, and this is the only thing that does give me some pause, is they've played the Phillies and the Mets. Um, since then. Now, but before Pittsburgh, they did take 2 or 3 against Tampa, who's been good.
Okay.
But still, they have gotten a little schedule break with the Phillies and Mets, even though both were supposed to be a playoff team.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe they're losing streaks partially due to playing the Cubs. Probably not, but they've had a hand.
Yeah.
Let's just say they've had a hand in both of those losing streaks.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and the thing about the Cubs is, they're doing this. They're on the 7 game winning streak. They're hitting the shit out of the ball, but they're still not getting the best version of a lot of these guys. I mean,
Hmm.
besides Nico, who is, playing like a MVP. I mean, the guy's hitting beach balls out there, essentially. Bregman is coming around, but he's still below
Yeah.
250. Hap's hitting 244, which is actually about what he and Hap hits. PCA's below 230. Swanson and Bush are below the Mendoza line.
Wow.
Um, and pitching wise, Shota's been absolutely lights out, which I've been surprised by. But they're down their top three starters right now.
Hurt.
Steele still hasn't made his debut this year. Still going to be a while. Cade Horton's out for the year, and then Matthew Boyd was just on the IL, whatever you want to say. He's actually coming back tomorrow. So the
How has
Cubs.
Cabrera been so far?
He's been good. He was okay in his last game against the Mets, but 2.38 ERA across 22 innings, 17
Okay, that's
strikeouts.
pretty good.
So he's
Yeah.
been solid. Um,
Yeah.
but between after him and Shota, it's been like, all right, Colin Ray, go get him, buddy. All right,
Yeah.
Javier Assad, go get him, pal.
Oh wow.
And they've been playing a lot better than I thought they would.
Hmm.
So even with how banged up the rotation is right now. So, um, I still, they're starting to play like I expected. Hopefully, those other bats kind of come back to life.
Hmm.
Bregman, Hap, PCA. I don't know, man.
But a little bit nervous about Pete
I'm
Crow
I'm
Armstrong.
not worried about him because, like, obviously they gave him the 8-year deal, couple like a month ago, or shortly before the season started. And some people were bashing it. I mean, the money itself wasn't terrible. And even if he does do this shit where he bats, 220, 230, which I don't want him to, he's still
Hmm.
a top tier gold glove defender, and you're going to have that for 8 years. Um, and then the one that kind of went under the radar, which I think more people should talk about, is the fact that they locked Nico up for 6 years.
Yeah.
Because God, Nico's a ball player, man. He's so good. Um, it's just insanely valuable all over the field. So, anyways, um, I think they'll get back in front eventually. It might not be as much. I don't think the division's going to be as spread out as I thought it was coming in. I kind of
Hmm.
thought, Cubs and Brewers towards the top, and then, Milwaukee,
Reds, Pirates.
Pittsburgh, and then the Cardinals aren't too far behind those two.
Hmm.
Um, it might just be a 5 game division by the end
Yeah.
of the year. Like,
Yeah.
especially if Cincy and Pittsburgh don't revert to their old selves,
Hmm.
which I don't know. I'm still not
Yeah.
100% sure they won't, but I'm more
Yeah.
confident that they won't than I have been in years past. I'll say that. Um, it might be a rock fight until the very end.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, Milwaukee's gonna go on a 12-game winning streak because they always do that. The Cardinals will probably go on a 10-game winning streak because they always do that. The Cubs will fall
Hmm.
apart for a couple weeks because they always do that. So I don't know. I still think the Cubs will pull it off, but man, this division's tight. Um,
Yeah.
Even if, I would say the best teams in the NL are still the Braves and the Dodgers, but after those two, you got a whole lot of NL Central teams just kind of filling in the
Yeah.
rankings. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm really excited to see, and the Cubs, they got the Dodgers this weekend, which is gonna be they got Dodgers, San Diego, Arizona, and then they got Cincy on the fourth.
Okay.
So that Cincy one's gonna be interesting. But all right. Any other MLB? What do we got? In about 5 minutes. Any other MLB stories popping out right now?
Um, I'm trying to think. Have there been any players that you've been kind of surprised by this far?
Let's see. Uh,
I have to say, I'm not going to say surprised, but that guy on the White Sox, the Japanese guy,
oh, is it Murakami.
Murakami,
Yeah.
I don't know how he's like actually hitting, but I've seen a ton of highlights of him just absolutely smoking
Yeah,
balls for
I
home
actually there
runs.
was a video about him the other day. Yeah, they said he's struggling. His average isn't great, but when he does make
Yeah.
contact, when he makes contact, he is absolutely destroying it.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then he isn't, I think his plate discipline is actually pretty solid too. So,
Okay.
um, players who surprise me, um, if I'm not being a homer, I just had the stats pulled up. Come on, help me out here. MLB app is such a joke. I'm sorry, I hate it.
I think you got to
Um,
throw Jordan Walker in there.
I was gonna say, if I'm not being a homer, it's probably Walker because yeah, I thought that dude was dead in the water, um,
Yeah.
and he hasn't been. If I am gonna be a homer, I do want to shout out Moises Ballesteros, the Cubs rookie. Um, what is it? What are his stats again? The little bowling ball of a human. Um, I mean, I don't know his weight, but let's just say he will be a career DH. Um,
Okay.
let me see, where is he? Where is he? Yeah, so rookie season, he's been their DH because they have to play Seiya
Okay.
and Wright. Batting
Yeah.
45 at bats, batting 378 with 11 home runs and 11 RBIs, pardon me, 11 RBIs and
Yeah.
a 1031 on base plus slugging.
Wow.
And the dude's just been kind of like we said with Murakami, just been killing the baseball. So, I thought DH was going to be a weak spot for the Cubs this year because they had to move Seiya out to right with Tucker going to Mickey Mouse Land. But Ballesteros has covered that spot. So I've been very surprised and
Okay.
happy with him. But all right. Um, any World Series predictions you want to get out now? I forgot. So did
Uh,
you ever figure out who you said?
well, I know I said the Mariners because I had them winning, but I tried to go back and watch the video, and I don't know if I ever said who they'd be playing. I I feel like I said either the Dodgers or the Padres, so I'm gonna go with the Padres. That's
Really?
who I'm gonna say, just for the sake of being interesting, because I think
Spicing it up.
if we're being smart, we're going with the Dodgers right out of the
Yeah.
NL.
I mean,
But I think I'm gonna go with the Padres right now.
yeah, if I was being really lame, which I'm gonna be, Nerf gun to my head, I think you gotta go Yankees Dodgers, which is just gonna be the worst. And I don't want, but I think the Mariners will pull it together. I think the Blue Jays
Yeah,
will pull it together. So I wouldn't be surprised at either of those. And then the
yeah,
Braves, if someone's going to beat the Dodgers, as of playing, I think there are a couple of teams on paper who could beat the Dodgers, like the Phillies and
yeah,
Mets, but obviously they have other plans. As of on paper slash who's actually looking like it right now, I think the Braves have the best shot. So,
yeah.
um, And then
Um,
there are a couple of teams who I think on paper
yeah,
could, but they need to perform better. So
yeah. I think the good news is even if it may seem like it's bound to happen, Yankees and Dodgers, it usually has other ways of working out. So,
yeah, well, especially with the Yankees. So.
yeah.
All right, well, that'll do it from this episode. We got to wrap things up. We'll be back next week. Not sure what we'll talk about. I know NHL playoffs are going on. Um, Obviously, the NFL draft is happening. Well, the first round will have happened by the time this episode comes out. So maybe we'll talk about that. We'll see. But, Bubba, until then, go Gorloks, lock it up, beat Women's College of Mississippi, which is a misleading name. And I will see you next week.
Sounds good. See you, Peter.